Hey neighbors, this video is showing how I calculate my cost per mile. It's not doesn't mean that it is the only way, or it may not even be the correct way for some of you guys. If you have a different way of doing it, it's a way that has worked for me throughout the years, and I have done other. I have had other positions in my life where I've had to calculate cost per mile, and this is a system that has worked well for me, and maybe it can be of some help to some of you guys that are just getting started, and maybe haven't had to do this before. But at any rate, hopefully it's helpful to somebody. If anybody out there has some suggestions or things that maybe they see that I could do better, I'm always open to suggestions for sure. So there you go. Thanks. Enjoy. Your number one cost is going to be fuel, whether that's diesel or gas. I'm just going to use examples, right, of what I'm driving. So I'm driving a gas van, a Ford Transit. Today, the national average for gas is $2.86 per gallon. All right. Now, I average 16 miles a gallon. I do all of these estimates where it winds up costing me on paper a little more than in reality. So in reality, I do a little better than 16 miles per gallon, but I would rather overestimate my cost. So at 16 miles per gallon and $2.86 per gallon average, that comes out to, what you do is you take your 286, you divide that by your miles per gallon, in my case 16, that comes out to 0.178. You round that to 18 cents. So my fuel cost is 18 cents per mile. That's what the fuel cost me, 18 cents a mile. Your number two cost is going to be your van / truck, whatever your vehicle is. Now, there are several ways of calculating this, and I'm sure that different people calculate it different ways. Here's the way that I do it. I'm going to take the cost of my vehicle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my van cost $44,000. All right. And I'm going to divide that by my expected life expectancy for that vehicle. Now, in the past, I've had Sprinter vans, and the expected life of a Sprinter van is around 600,000 miles. If you take care of one, you can get that out of it with everything original. This is my first go around with a gas vehicle with the Transit. And just from my research, what I'm going to do is I'm going to estimate my life expectancy at 450,000 miles. Now, keep in mind, I realize that at 300,000 miles, maybe I need to put a transmission in, maybe I need to put a motor in. I don't know. Those are unknowns, right? I plan to maintain my vehicle extremely well and hope for the best, right? But 450,000 miles, I think that is a reasonable life expectancy from a vehicle that is spending most of its life on cruise control going down the highway. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so $44,000 for the van divided by 450,000 mile life expectancy. That comes out to right at 10 cents per mile. 44,000 divided by 450,000, 10 cents per mile. That is going to be your van cost, your replacement cost. This is not depreciation. This is just a simple way of figuring out how much you would have to put aside for every mile you drive to replace that van by the end of its 450,000 mile life expectancy. Number 3 is going to be your maintenance. Again, this will vary depending on your vehicle and your personal maintenance schedules. These are all just examples, but for example, if you do your oil change every 7,000 miles, and let's say that oil change costs you $60, all right, and you do that every 7,000 miles, that is going to come out to 14 changes per 100,000 miles, which will equal $840. Again, per 100,000 miles. We're using 100,000 miles as a good base, right, to figure your cost per mile. It's just nice to use good, solid round numbers. All right. Tires. You're going to need tires every 100,000 miles. I have had Michelins that lasted up to 150,000 miles, but again, I like to overestimate costs. If you overestimate your costs on paper, you will never be disappointed. If you underestimate your costs, you will always be disappointed. So, again, it's good to overestimate your costs. Every 100,000 miles, you're going to need tires, and those are going to cost. We're going to say $1,000, even though you may be able to get them for less. And that's going to come out to a penny. This 840 is going to actually come out to just under a penny. I'm going to overestimate that to a penny, okay, for your oil change. All right. Next in line, you have transmission services. Your owner's manual may say 100,000. It may say 150,000. I would never go that long in this business. I'm going to estimate doing a transmission service every 65,000. I'm going to estimate the cost as being $600. Now, I know it may be more than that, maybe less than that, depending on where you go. Another couple $100 in either direction is not going to change your overall outcome that much. So this is, a reasonable estimate, I would say. We're going to do that every 65,000 miles, which is going to come out to just once during that 100,000 mile period. Miscellaneous costs, light bulbs, belts, different things. We're going to say another $500. Again, we're doing these for every 100,000 miles, and when you add these together, you come up to 3 cents per mile for maintenance. Now, if you have a transmission blow or you have a motor blow, that cost may go up. But 3 cents a mile for maintenance is, in my estimation, in my experience, a reasonable amount to figure. Fixed cost. Now, many people will say you should include your fixed cost in your cost per mile. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. That is a choice based on your own finances and how you prefer to do it. An example of fixed cost, and actually my only fixed cost in this operation, is going to be my commercial insurance, right? So if I were to choose to include my insurance, my fixed cost, into my cost per mile, insurance being approximately $600 per month, and you divided that or multiplied that by 12, that's $7,200 a year. And if you divided that by your 100,000 miles, even though many of you are going to go more than 100,000 miles, if you only went 100,000 miles, this is the case where the more miles you drive, the lower this cost per mile goes. At 100,000 miles, you're going to be looking at 7 cents a mile. So if you choose to include your fixed cost in your cost per mile, it could be as much as another 7 cents per mile. Personally, right or wrong, I don't include that in my personal cost per mile. In my estimation, and the way I like to think about it when I'm thinking about rates, I want to know how much it cost me to drive that vehicle down the road. And that's a good way for me to decide if I'm making money or not. Okay, so your totals. So what we've come up with is your fuel is always your number one cost, right? And these are, again, examples. But for me, it's 18 cents per mile for my fuel. My vehicle cost, replacement value, replacement cost per mile is 10 cents. My maintenance is 3 cents per mile. And for me, these are my main costs. So I've got 18 and 10 is 28, plus 3 is 31. So my my cost per mile, according to my estimate, is 31 cents per mile to drive down the road. If I included my fixed cost that we talked about, which is insurance, I would be at 38 cents per mile to drive down the road. Now, something you have to keep in mind is this cost per mile is for every mile you drive, whether it's deadhead or loaded. Whatever your cost per mile winds up being, again, mine 31 cents per mile, not including the fixed insurance cost. You know, whether I am relocating myself or deadheading, it doesn't matter, or driving to Miss Sally's house, it's costing me 31 cents per mile to drive that vehicle down the road. So you have to keep that in mind. The more you can keep your deadhead down, obviously the better. You know, for every paid mile, it's better than because you are spending, in other words, you are spending that, in my case, 31 cents to drive down the road for every mile, whether I'm getting paid or not. So anyway, it's good to keep that in mind as well. Well, I hope somebody found this helpful. It was a good exercise for me as well to go back through some of the things that I do without thinking too much about it. Sometimes it's nice to go back and just kind of double check yourself. But anyway, I appreciate it. If you guys stuck with me that long through all of that, I appreciate it. And again, I hope somebody found it helpful. And if anybody has some pointers for me, I'm more than happy to listen to those. Always looking for new and better ways to do things. So see you guys out on the road.